What's up, gamers? I'm the Lights, and so we've got another 6 weapons to break down today from Season of the Deep, in addition to the 6 that I broke down on Sunday. These are reprised versions of the old Reckoning weapons from back in year 2, like the Spare Rations, which is a gun with notoriety to the point that it's probably deserving of an exhibit at the Smithsonian at this point. Outlast is another one coming back that was an old favorite of mine, but do these weapons have the same sauce they used to? Weapons in Destiny 2 are held to a much higher standard now than they used to be back when these guns first came out, so let's take a look at the perks. How to get these guns really quick: you can focus these new guns with deep engrams at the helm, and they also seem to drop at a pretty decent clip from turning in fish, if you're into that. Also, really quick, the new origin trait on all of these guns is called Disaster Plan, which gives you flinch resistance and range until the weapon is fired. So it's kind of like an opening shot type effect, nothing crazy at all, potentially noticeable in PvP. I'm going to start us off big with Spare Rations. And first things first, kinetic slot, 140 RPM hand cannon. That's one of the most competitive niches in the game. So Spare is slotting right into tough competition from Fatebringer, IS Luna, Austringer, Rose, Judgment, DFA, Dire Promise. So there's some stiff competition. One thing that's important to address is that Spare Rations used to be a 150 RPM lightweight frame hand cannon. All the old 150 RPM lightweight frame hand cannons have since been turned into normal 140 RPM adaptive frame hand cannons, with the exceptions being Sunshot, which stayed 150 RPM, and Rose, which, when reissued, did take the fire rate reduction down to 140 but retained the lightweight frame. The old 150 RPM hand cannons had very poor base range and stability in exchange for high base reload speed and handling. Spare Rations, curiously, has the exact same stat line as it did when it was a lightweight, which, when we compare it to other 140 RPM kinetic hand cannons, means that Spare is left in the dust by the top options in terms of range, stability, aim assist, but has much higher handling and reload speed. The only real exceptions to this are guns like Dire Promise, which were also originally 150 RPM lightweight frames. So where does this leave us? Well, for PvP, handling is great, but missing out on 10 or more base range is quite a bit less than desirable, to put it mildly. In PvE, if you're picky about getting some range boosts from your barrel mag and masterwork, the extra reload speed and mag size is really nice. But in all areas of the game, guns make or break on their perks. So what do we got? Well, to my eye, honestly, nothing crazy. I've heard the role of opening shot and slide shot hyped up quite a lot for PvP. There's also moving target or maybe rapid hit as alternatives to slide shot for that first column. Something like that would be what I'd go with. We don't have rangefinder here, which is fine considering zoom effects are about to be nerfed, so not a huge loss. But now, I don't know. I've never really liked slide shot on pretty much anything, and I've never been crazy about opening shot on primaries. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. Admittedly, I'm not the biggest PvP player. And like I said, I have heard that role getting quite a bit of praise, so it might be saucy. I do know that with Swashbuckler in the 4th column, paired with Radiant, you could 2-tap in PvP, which may not be as unrealistic a situation as you think, because if you're running Ember of Torches on a Solar subclass, maybe you get a melee kill like that, and then Swash times 5 and Radiant, Over in PvE land, which is more what I'm concerned with, Swashbuckler, Focus Fury, and Kill Clip are all potentially solid options, but the only thing I'm really looking at is Kinetic Tremors paired with Rapid Hit or Subsistence. Kinetic Tremors kills will refill your mag with Subsistence, which is a pretty cool interaction and the role I'm most interested in. Rapid Hit's another great option. But now, Kinetic Tremors as a gun's best role, I don't think is a very, very awesome spot to be in for a primary weapon where most of the things that you're killing won't live through enough shots for you to get Kinetic Tremors. Of course, that's not the intended use case. My point is just that this perk doesn't do all that much for you all that often. For Barrel Mag and Masterwork, we're looking for a lot of range in both PvE and PvP. Ideally from a range Masterwork, Hammer Forged Rifling, and Light Mag for PvE, for extra reload speed, or Ricochet in PvP for extra stability. So there are definitely some decent roles here. I'd imagine most people are going to want a given hand cannon for PvP first and foremost, and for that it's fine. It's just incredibly replaceable is all. Like Dire Promise can get Swashbuckler, Judgment and Rose can both get that slide shot opening shot roll. And that's only kinetic legendaries. Like, Spare Rations gets really lost in the weeds when we bring in exotics and energy hand cannons on top of all of that. But it's fine. Like, it's not bad at all. I'd say there's a good chance you have something better in your vault, but who knows? Maybe you really want that slide shot opening shot roll, but you don't want to farm a judgment, or you never got it on Rose. So here you go. Maybe you just really vibe with it, like a lot of people did back in year 2. I know I'm going to get one for PvP just because of that reason. In PvE, it's honestly kind of the same story. Mini hand cannons get rolls that are straight up better. Pretty much any sort of payload perk, in my opinion, is going to be superior to kinetic tremors, for example. But kinetic tremors is cool, totally usable, just quite replaceable. So I promise this next weapon will have a more brief explanation than Spare did, because Outlast is terrible. This is a 540 RPM rapid-fire frame pulse rifle with incredibly outdated perk options. Kill clip is pretty good on pulse rifles for PvP if you want to do that, but that's really all there is. Pair that with Keep Away or Outlaw, cool, whatever. But what the hell am I supposed to use for PvE? That's what I want this thing for. Dragonfly? Dragonfly, is that it? Are you kidding me? It's pretty bad. It honestly didn't feel as bad as I thought it would with stats for all. That helped the stats out a lot, but I would just go get a BXR from Dares. That gun is miles better than this one. If you must use it, though, one little thing is this gun has 60 base recoil direction, which is bad, but it will trend quite vertical with just a counterbalance stock on it. So for PvP, you can go for pretty much any barrel that doesn't give a stat penalty, since these 540s have very poor base stats. But my recommendation is still Arrowhead Break for all areas of the game, Ricochet rounds for PvP, or a reload/mag size boosting perk for your magazine in PvE. But yeah, I don't think it's very good. You can pass on this one. Go get a BXR. On a brighter note, Bugout Bag is one of the better weapons of this set. It's just solid. And I know a lot of people are still pretty much always using SMGs as their primary in PvE, myself included. This here is a solar 900 RPM adaptive frame submachine gun. And these adaptives are interesting. We don't see them all that often. Most 900 RPM SMGs like Funnel Web, Callus Mini Tool, etc. Those are lightweight frames, which have higher base handling than the adaptives and give you the lightweight frame mobility bonus, usually in exchange for a bit of stability and range. They are quite similar, though. And speaking of similar, the main gun Bugout Bag will be compared to is the mega popular Callus Mini Tool from back in Season of the Haunted, which was craftable with enhanced incandescent, and everybody loved it. Enhanced incandescent has been toned down a bit, and the same roll I personally crafted on my Callus Mini Tool and put several thousand kills through is here. Threat Detector Incandescent. It's a great perk combo, super consistent. You can use it with any of your solar builds. We also have Perpetual Motion or Subsistence as alternative to Threat Detector. For PvP, Fragile Focus just got a pretty big buff where it does not deactivate until your shields break, which should make it a very good perk after Rangefinder is brought in line. So those are the two big kind of things to look out for. Incandescent with either Subsistence, Threat Detector, or Perpetual Motion for PvE, and then maybe look out for a Fragile Focus roll for PvP. Pair those with a range boosting barrel and go all in on range for PvP. For PvE, grab as much reload speed as you think you need from either your Masterwork magazine or both on top of that same range barrel. This gun's solid, and if you didn't get your hands on Callus Mini Tool back when it was available, this is the best solar SMG option in the game if you don't plan to farm the no survivors from the new dungeon. Which I'd imagine is probably a pretty decent chunk of people, so yeah, go grab a Bugout Bag. Moving on into these special weapons, we have the Soul Survivor starting us out, which is an unremarkable ARC 90 RPM adaptive frame sniper. Off the top of my head, I can think of 3 other ARC 90 RPM adaptive frame snipers. We have the Adored, which can be grabbed from the kiosk at the tower. We have the new Mercurial Overreach from the comp playlist for this season. We also have the World Drop Amalon sniper, the Galu. In PvE, adaptive frame snipers are not the most preferable. 140 RPM snipers are making a bit of a rise right now for DPS viability, and outside of that, it's basically just Succession from Deepstone, which is a 72 RPM. The use case for adaptive frame snipers in PvE is hyper-specific and case by case. If that's you, you know what you want, and you don't really probably need this video. And the role you're probably looking for is Lead from Gold or Field Prep with Vorpal Weapon. If you're interested in this gun for PvP, snipers are one of the most feel-based weapons in the game. On paper, Mercurial Overreach demolishes every other sniper in the game for PvP based purely on its perk selection, base stats, and attributes that are generally seen as positives by the community. For example, its low zoom scope at 40 zoom. Despite that, I've heard mixed reviews on the Mercurial though. And I mention all of this to say that for PvP, Eye of the Storm and Snapshot Sight seems to be the role to me, and while that is an unremarkable role on an unremarkable stat package, you're gonna need to get it in your hands and try it out, because that's just kind of how snipers are. Go for a nice blend of handling, stability, and range in that order for your barrel mag and masterwork. My preference would be fluted barrel, ricochet, and a handling masterwork. Next up is an interesting one, the Last Man Standing Solar 55 RPM Aggressive Frame Shotgun. For PvE, I'll skip straight to the point. It gets 1-2 punch, and I think the best pairing with 1-2 punch here is actually probably Compulsive Reloader. So, I mean, that works. PvP is where shotguns get broken down a little more as far as roles go. Aggressive frame shotguns like Last Man Standing aren't the most sought after archetype, mostly because of their abysmal base handling, but they're still quite usable with the right role. As far as the perk pool here, the most obviously apparent and exciting thing about this gun is we have a very rare case of opening shot in the first column. Opening shot is, in my opinion, hands down the best PvP shotgun perk in the game, and seeing it in the first column as opposed to the second column where it usually appears is very encouraging, since that normally means we can pair it with perks that we wouldn't be able to normally, like maybe Fragile Focus or Killing Wind or something like that. And well, we don't have either of those, but we do have 1-2 punch, so you could potentially get 1-2 punch and have some super killing potential with your shotgun and not have to give up opening shot for it, but that's about it. And your handling will be terrible with a roll like that. The usual shotgun go-to of opening shot plus handling perk is kind of here in the form of shot swap, which is it's not ideal. It's all right, but not turning any heads with that one. Still gonna be what I recommend overall though. Discord could have some play, refunding you ammo potentially. Quite strong if you can get it to proc, but my issue with it on a shotgun is that if you're getting a kill with a shotgun in PvP, the guy probably dropped a special brick that you probably picked up, effectively giving you that shot back anyway. You'll still, of course, get the refund, so you'll just be net 1 ammo, and that's good, but compared to the potency of this perk on something like a sniper, where it is far from a guarantee that you'll be snagging the ammo from your kill, I'm not as crazy about it. For PvP on shotguns, my recommendations are always to go for as much range and handling as you can without sacrificing the other, unless you can make up for it through something like a handling exotic. The catch-all go-to choices for me are corkscrew rifling, accurized rounds, and a ranged masterwork. Go get it if you want it, or if something I just mentioned sounds neat, but there are definitely better shotguns out there. Finally, rounding us out is another sword that is dead on arrival for not having Eager Edge, being a Vortex Frame, or being the Lament. Just in case is a Solar Adaptive Frame sword. Not at all unlike the Solar Adaptive Frame sword we literally just got last season. That you can still go get. A fact that is puzzling, to say the least. Their perk pools even have a ton of overlap, and honestly, that's all I'm gonna say. It's here. If you're gonna use it, you probably don't even care what's on it, so yeah, that's gonna do it for me. If you want to hear me be depressed over guns you like some more, subscribe to me on YouTube and leave a comment, like the video, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.